Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. This is the Science Dispatch podcast. My name is Cameron English, joined as always by Dr. Chuck Dinnerstein, Director of Medicine at the American Council on Science and Health. Chuck, great to see you. How are things?
Everything is great. How about you?
It's beautiful. The weather is changing over here in California. It's dark, and drizzly, and cold, and I couldn't be more pleased with that. It just lifts my soul.
This is the atmospheric river is passing through your neighborhood?
Correct. Got lots of rain coming. It's fire season, right?
Yes.
You know, fire in the fireplace. You put on some Christmas carols, which I start as soon as November gets here. Christmas. I'm one of those people that Christmas starts early and continues throughout January. And if you don't like it, I don't care.
Okay. See, now there's two things in there. First of all, when you said fire season, I'm just still thinking of wildfires, not
right.
But that's only because I'm here in the drought-stricken East. And as far as Christmas goes, my wife also has various rituals around that, beginning with placing the tree up the day after Thanksgiving. And so...
You sound a bit frustrated with that, but I have to sympathize with your wife on this one because we do that too. And I just enjoy the season. It's not the consumerism necessarily. I like buying my kids stuff, but just the atmosphere of it, I really enjoy.
And I have no problem with a tree going up the day after Thanksgiving. I do have a problem with getting up at 7 so I can get in line to cut down the tree. Because that's always a lovely festival. My wife learned her lesson by sending me to buy a tree during the first year of our marriage, and I brought back something that she described as a Charlie Brown tree. And I've not been allowed to do this by myself ever since.
You can't. You can't win. The one thing that my wife and I agree on is that we go around the corner to the Home Depot, and by showing up early in the season, you get the cream of the crop. So the pretty trees and the sucky trees both start on the, I don't know, what do you call it where they grow trees? The word escapes me at the moment. In any case, you just show up a few weeks early and the nice ones are there, and then you just tie it to your car and bring... Anyways, enough of that. It's Christmas season as far as I'm concerned, and I'm quite happy about that.
Excellent.
Okay, but that has, of course, nothing to do with what we're talking about today, which is our colleague Dr. Josh Bloom's article. This is called NSAIDs, Pick Your Poison. Let me read the introduction here, Chuck, and then give us a breakdown of what Josh is talking about. So he writes, in the U.S., 6 non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, or NSAIDs, are most commonly used to manage pain and inflammation. While this drug class is widely relied upon, it is also associated with gastrointestinal and cardiovascular risks. However, not all NSAIDs are the same. Here's a look at their key similarities and differences. Okay, so this is poised to be a really helpful article if people will take a few minutes to read it, Chuck. What do you make of this?
Well, I think you're correct. This is one of those times when Josh puts on his chemist hat from the days when he was a research chemist for Big Pharma, and winds up talking about the 6 non-steroidal anti-inflammatories that are available. He, of course, has to begin by bemoaning, would be the right word, or perhaps lamenting, the fact that opioids are no longer available to treat real pain, which has been a constant theme and thorn in his side. And today at least speaks about the ones that are more readily available. And he breaks it down, and I'm just going to say a few things about it. He begins with probably the most common of all of them, aspirin. It's natural because it comes from the willow bark. So that has it going for it. And it's the medication that people take for their various aches and pains. It has, unlike the other choices in the category, some antiplatelet activities, and because of that, unlike many of the other drugs, it's considered beneficial for people with cardiovascular disease because it is felt to lessen the risk of people forming clots. It's in some senses, a kind of a very mild blood thinner. So it has that going for it. In fact, it's an interesting story because one of the downsides of aspirin is a condition called Ray's syndrome, which is seen predominantly in children and teenagers, which is a dangerous reaction to people to aspirin when they have a viral infection. And because of that, baby aspirin, those 81 milligram tablets, were on their way to being taken off the market, so that aspirin would only be available for adults. Luckily, the cardiologist discovered that a baby aspirin dose was ideal for the adult cardiac patients. So it did two things. First, it saved the 81 milligram baby aspirin, and best of all, even though you can't get it in an orange flavor, it raised the price significantly because, as we know, the adults will pay a lot more to protect their heart than they will to take care of an ache and pain in a baby. Little capitalist story to throw in there just to break things up. So there's that. Then the next three that he talks about are probably the more common ones. They're the Advil, Aleve, Indocin. These are all, again, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. They have a better efficacy, I think, than aspirin alone, but come with some significant concerns about distress to the stomach and cardiovascular effects. And it's probably the cardiovascular effects that are most concerning. When you get some health organization, in this case the European Society of Cardiology, saying it's the safest of the choices, right away you have to be concerned about using the drugs at all, at least in my age group. But they are used fairly frequently by people for taking care of their needs. But they do cause some gastric upset. Again, as an interesting aside, all these medicines have some adverse effects in cardiovascular patients, but in nearly all cases, cardiovascular patients at this point are on some kind of real blood thinner, particularly Eliquis, which is a very popular drug now. So they can't take these drugs anyway. So it's another way we've protected ourselves a little bit. And then the last two drugs he talks about are really drugs that are far more powerful as an anti-inflammatory drug. One is Voltaren, and I'm talking trade names here, and the other one is Celebrex, both of which are far more effective than the other groups of drugs. But again, Celebrex comes with some concerns with respect to cardiovascular problems, and Voltaren is more commonly used as a gel, as a local or a topical analgesic. So that covers, I think, the world of medicines that we can buy for pain over the counter, because at this point in time, it is very difficult to get a prescription from anybody for pain medicines that are behind the counter.
So avoid car accidents if you can help it is, I think, really...
That's always a good generalization. Even if you can, even as a physician, and I can write myself my own script, I try to avoid car accidents.
Yes. Can you actually do that incidentally? I feel like that's not allowed.
You can try writing yourself some prescriptions for narcotics, and you may get away with it once or twice, but you will be found and have a serious talking to. You may even get a timeout.
Yeah, DEA timeouts are not like your mom's timeouts either. So
no, or state medical board times out. These are...
Yeah, the licensing boards, they don't fool around. Anyways, so avoid car accidents and don't write yourself prescriptions in case you were debating that possibility. Back on topic though, Chuck. This is Josh's bottom line, and I want to get your thoughts on this. He writes, it's been well over a century since the discovery of aspirin and heroin. One could argue that little progress has been made in treating pain. NSAIDs, although improved, and opioids remain the only classes of drugs for pain and inflammation. This remains a vital area for research. Okay. Do you think he's right about that, or is he missing something there?
No, I think that up until the fentanyl crisis and Purdue Pharmaceuticals, we had a reasonable range of treatment options, and things were pretty well managed. I don't buy the story that physician prescriptions led to the opioid crisis that we currently face. But with the loss of opioids for a significant part of the population that have pain needs, I think there probably is some advantage to looking for new compounds that work. But as it turns out, pain is a difficult area to do research in. First of all, it's subjective. My pain is different than your pain. And then a further hindrance to the research is that it's pushing our ethical limits to talk about inflicting pain upon laboratory animals in order to really get at whether they work. Burning mouse paws gives one pause about whether this is something we should be doing. So research is stymied by the fact that we really have a very poor understanding of how pain comes about, that it's subjective, and so it's hard to get objective measures of pain relief. And unfortunately, it's still at this point in time, pain research requires torturing little animals.
I'm sure that's particularly difficult. I certainly wouldn't want to do it. I also wonder about the economic incentives. Until you can come up with a pain medication that has a very, very low abuse liability, I imagine that nobody's going to want to introduce one in the current market.
That would just be a minimal criteria to get into the game, and then you're going to have a medicine that's more efficacious than the medications that are already there. Going back into MBA land, aspirin and Tylenol were the first movers, and they remain probably the most popular over-the-counter analgesics available. And they're going to be very tough to push out of their role, while the companies that make them are not monopolies, because it's a generic drug at this point and can be made by anybody. In the sense of their market share, acetaminophen, which is Tylenol, and aspirin have the lion's share of the market.
Okay, so it's got to be highly effective, unlikely to be abused, and it requires torturing little animals to make sure it works. So
yeah, and displacing what's already there, which is not an easy project.
Right. So you have to displace the equivalent of Coca-Cola in
Yes.
The analgesic market. Which okay,
Right.
fair
And
enough. Okay,
Pepsi's been working on that for years.
right. So nothing's coming soon is my layman summary of what Dr. Dinnerstein just said.
Okay, I'm good with that.
Okay, there you go. Well, avoid car accidents or chronic diseases that are painful, everyone, and you'll be fine.
Or as we say in the office, take 2 aspirin and call me in the morning.
My goodness. Okay. Our cynicism aside, go check out Josh's article. It's pretty helpful. Of course, you should talk to your doctor about taking specific medicines. But as some background, I think this is the kind of stuff that keeps ACSH useful to people out there looking for good info. So once again, the article is called NSAIDs, Pick Your Poison by Dr. Josh Bloom. It's on our website, acsh.org. If you go to the website, click on the subscribe tab, punch in your email address. We'll send you the stories we publish. The ones you read are usually the ones we talk about here. So as always, thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time.